Welcome to Tales Unfold. Find healing in your story. My name is Blossom, and here we will discuss everything from the mysteries of the unseen world, energy clearing, writing, the realm of the Fae, and more. I am a house healer, and over the next weeks and months we will have a closer look at all the aspects that I, as an energy clearer, will investigate when doing a house healing job. And today we'll have a look at earth energy and geopathic stress. Let's dive in. So, what is earth energy and why can it have a detrimental effect on you? Let's have a look at the different kinds of geopathic stress. And we will start with ley lines. So when you are setting out to research earth energy or earth energy lines, and just put earth energy on your Google search and you will first come across ley lines. Most people have heard of them at some point in their life or are even very interested in them and do quite a bit of research about it. However, their definition varies. So this can go from a simple straight line connecting different sides to those mysterious lines that are full of magic and wonder. So who came up with ley lines? And here we have to mention Alfred Watkins. He made his discovery of the ley lines public in 1922. Basically, you can imagine he drove around in his car and he studied his map of the Herefordshire landscape. And there he noticed that different sites, like Beacon Hills, earthworks, old churches, and circular moats could be connected with straight lines. And his claim was that the ley lines were the remnants of prehistoric trackways, and so the ley hunting began. To this day, there isn't a fixed definition of what a ley line actually is. And so, for some it will remain just a straight track between sites, and for others a mystical unseen energy line. Now, in his book Heal Your Home Too, Adrian Weber describes ley lines as human intent lines. In his definition, humans have set these mysterious lines up in the past as an energetic guide to lead the people from one side to another. As mentioned already, it is hard to define what a ley line is, and actually people who are either very skeptical or even those who are very interested in those lines can connect other sites. And I think it was in America somewhere where they started to map out Walmarts and found their connective lines between the different shops. And probably, yes, you can find often straight lines between different sites. I even was curious at some point, and I was looking up a drugstore chain here in Germany. And as I connected them all, it actually formed a pentagram. Is it coincidence? Probably. Can you put higher meaning to it? Well, you can do whatever you want, right? However, there is no denial that there is a connection between sacred sites often, burial mounds, stone circles, etc., and it is connected with those straight lines. If we think about ley lines and how, let's say, they are human intent lines and they have been set up by shamanic people or they have been set up by priests, whatever you want. The intent was actually always good and to lead and guide the people, as Adrian Weber describes. However, living now on a ley line, the reason why they can be detrimental is because their energy can just be too powerful to live upon or to sleep upon. That's why they can have a detrimental effect on us. Also, sometimes, and I have my own experience with that in my own home, I had 3 ley lines running through my home, which is quite unusual, and all 3 of them were corrupted by darker energies. So that can happen too. Usually if they are not corrupted, either you feel them or you don't. Not everybody is affected by that, very, very importantly. But if you are affected by that, the detrimental value is often not that high, except for when they have been corrupted. Now, if we talk about ley lines, we also have to talk about the energy channels. Earth energy channels accompany the ley lines as they are feeding off of them. The most well-known energy channels are the Mary and the Michael line in Britain. They start at St. Michael's Mount in Penzance, Cornwall. Well, actually, they start a bit earlier in the sea. However, and they run to the coast of East Anglia. They cross several sacred sites on their path, for example, the Hurlers in Bodmin Moor, or Glastonbury and Avebury. Other than the ley lines, they are not straight lines. Earth energy channels are not straight. They travel around the world in a serpentine line. And for some people, they can be detrimental, especially if they carry human emotions with them, but also depending on their earth energy patterns that they have picked up on their journey through sacred sites. Now let's also talk about places of energy in general. Both types of earth energy lines, so the ley lines and the earth energy channels, run through significant sites. So think about France or Britain, for example. They cross standing stones, stone circle, burial chambers, churches, holy wells, etc. There is also a belief that especially the stones, the standing stones, for example, are like needles and puncture those lines, veins, or even meridians, as in acupuncture. The stones are there to guide and enhance the energy flowing all over the planet. Whatever you believe, there is no denial that those ancient sites have a magical pull to them. They are often aligned with stars or the sun. They let people, still today, dream and wonder. Sacred sites are places of contemplation. If only you wonder about the why of these places. In folklore, we can find evidence that many of the sacred sites were used for healing rituals. In Cornwall, for example, we can find the site of Menentoll. It is said by crawling through the hole of the stone that it can heal rheumatic illness, and children could be cured from tuberculosis. In Brittany, there's a standing stone called Kerloas, and it is said to be a fertility stone. Women only need to rub their belly against the stone. And even today, or especially today after so many years, you can find evidence of a smoother area on the stone where people over the ages have kept this tradition alive. People still hold rituals at sacred sites. The fascination is as strong as ever, and people are drawn to these places, even if they can't explain it. You probably don't visit Britain or Brittany without at least having a look at one sacred site. In England, this is probably Stonehenge if you want to. Another big one is Avebury. And you're probably going to see it. It doesn't even matter if you are that enthusiastic about it, but people from every belief, they're just being drawn to these places. Charles Brooker performed an experiment by using sensitive magnetometers and discovered that the magnetic field inside the rollright stones was significantly lower than measured outside the circle. And again, at the same site, at the rollright stones, Dr. Don Robbins used an ultrasonic detector and found that the king stone sent out a pulsing noise. This pulsing noise increased just before and after the winter solstice. When this pulsing was converted to sound, it became apparent that the stones seemed to sing. And there have been several experiments at sites like that. There has also been an increase of dreams at those sites, which could have something to do with the higher radiation. People have slept there their entire nights, and people have slept on different sites, and they all had similar dreams. So other experiments have been done, and you can do your own research a bit about it, because it's going to be too big for on this episode. However, also know it's not just Britain and Brittany, it's all over the world. And we can find temples, the pyramids, and everything, right? We can find so much all over the world. I'm just taking this as an example. Now, however, even if all those ancient sites are without doubt fascinating, and certainly they still hold many secrets for us to discover, I also want to ensure that everybody understands not only these types of sites contain potent energies. And we will discuss places of power and where you can find them near your home or even in your home at a later point. Now, when we talk a bit about earth energy in general, I also just want to include very briefly Feng Shui, not in depth, just as a little reminder. It's just important to know that the idea of earth energy lines is not only common in Europe. To keep it simple, Feng Shui, in its earliest form, was a set of rules to place tombs and other sacred buildings in the correct spot in the landscape. The Chinese believed that the landscape was a living being, and that the subtle energies flowed through the veins of the earth. These energies, or the dragon's breath, as they also refer to it, had to be found and kept in balance whenever a tomb or sacred site was built. And you can compare the dragon lines to the ley lines, but the dragon lines are not really straight. There's a difference between that. And this is just a bit of a side note for Feng Shui. So let's move on to underground water. Underground water, and especially water veins, are well known to create geopathic stress. In 1929, the dowser Gustav Freiherr von Pohl did an experiment regarding water veins and has proved to the fullest extent that deaths from cancer in the German town Vilsbiburger occur without exception in the houses or rooms or beds that are above strong underground watercourses. The effects of underground water will not always be that drastic, but they can cause insomnia, not feeling rested after sleeping. It can cause bad dreams, or you might feel unwell in general. It can even cause arthritis, or, as we have seen already, cancer. When dealing with underground water, it is also important to know that water can store memories and emotions. Therefore, the detrimental effect of it comes not only from the water itself, but from those emotions and memories as well. Now, of course, also uplifting and positive emotions are stored within the water. But as a house healer, or as all house healers, we look at the detrimental effects. And if you sleep night after night over a water vein that carries emotions of anger, resentment, jealousy, and so on, well, of course, you won't get a good night's sleep. Water veins respond, as many other earth energy phenomena, to our human consciousness. So we can interact with them. And even pure intent can divert them. We can, with just intent, move them away from your house. It sounds like magic, and I'm honest with you, it is. It is amazing. I just finished a full house healing report. And I did the healing, and a week later I checked in again where the water veins are. And they moved so far away from the house. And they also moved just between other houses. They are not in anybody's way. They are just now running through gardens, over the road, so there's no bother of it anymore. Here in Germany, I have to say that there are a lot of products you can buy to eliminate a water vein or to take away the harmful effect. So here, or as far as I can see right now, there's much more an emphasis on buying products to eliminate it, other than working with the healing energies of the universe, God, the source, however you want to call it. And I wonder from anybody who is listening, how is it at a place where you live? Let me know, write me, you know where to find me. Now, another earth energy phenomena that can cause stress, geopathic stress, are geological fault lines. Fault lines are fractures in the earth crusts where rocks on either side on the crack have slid past each other. They are related to the movement of the Earth's tectonic plates. So the most well-known fault line is the San Andreas Fault. It extends roughly 1,200 kilometers, so that's 750 miles, more or less. So it extends from Northern Carolina southward to the Cajun Pass near San Bernardino. The San Andreas Fault forms the tectonic boundary between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate. What is interesting is that at sacred sites, fault lines are often found running through or at least nearby. Again, it will not affect everybody, but those who are affected, they can experience affections of the circulatory system, nervousness, irritability, hyperactivity, emotional hypersensitivity, and insomnia. With a lot of those geopathic stress symptoms, a lot of them are similar. Now, another interesting one, or at least I think they are really interesting, are Earth energy spirals, also sometimes called geospirals. And they are vortexes, and you can find them everywhere. They are created when two or more lines of water veins or energy lines or other geopathic disturbances are crossing. They are not always detrimental. It is even possible that they neutralize the detrimental effect of the other lines. Then these spirals can even be beneficial and you can use them to meditate on them. Or if the energy is intense and empowering, they can be wonderful spots to work on. And you can dowse for energy spirals yourself. Every home has them. Simply ask your dowsing rods to show you the most beneficial earth energy spiral in your home and let them guide you into the right direction. Now be clear about the question. Ask specifically for the most beneficial spiral for you. When it comes to dowsing, asking the right question is half the job. Now, sometimes, however, these spirals also carry human emotions and detrimental energy patterns, and then they need to be cleared and harmonized first. If this has happened, you can then send in positive thoughts or affirmations. You can meditate on them, you can chant, you can use prayers, and they become positively charged and they might even expand. Use these little power spots to your advantage. Now, if you are not dowsing already, or you're unsure about it and you still want to find them, just trust your intuition. I am pretty sure the spot you meditate on, the spot you prefer to sit and relax and just read a good book, or the spot you chose in your home where you do yoga regularly, or the spot you just hang out and cuddle with your dog, that might be the most beneficial energy spiral for you. Trust yourself a little bit. Let's move on to the next one, and there we talk about the Hartman and Curry grids. The Hartman grid was developed in 1951 by the Dr. E. Hartman. The grid consists of 15 to 20 centimeter wide bands, spaced about 2 meters north-south and about 2.5 meters east-west around the Earth. It appears as a structure of radiation rising vertically from the ground like invisible radioactive walls. As far as we know, the bands themselves are harmless. The grid points only cause illness when they meet on other geopathic stress zones. However, according to researchers, the Hartman lines are getting weaker and have less effect on people. I don't know honestly how relevant they still are. It is much more common to talk about them. Here in Germany, it's much more of a thing. I find when I look further, house healers working in England, maybe even the US, I don't hear so much talk about it. Here it's more talked about, more books are written about it. I am going to be very, very honest with you now. I only know the basics of that. And when I do a report, I include it, but I will not map it entirely out. I will just map out the exact spot where the problem is caused. Now, that's just as a side note. I am no expert on this. I'm trying to learn more and more as I work with it, but honestly, I also haven't found any issues with it yet. So when there is a statement that they are getting weaker and have less effect on people, I wonder, that's probably the reason why I haven't found any yet. Now, the second grid, the Curry grid, is named after the discoverer, the Dr. Manfred Curry. It is aligned with the cardinal points. It is also known as a diagonal mesh grid. The strip width of the Curry net is approximately 60 centimeters, and the mesh width is 3 to 4 meters. Structural measures as well as geographical circumstances can distort this grid. Also, apparently it changes its size with the moon phases. I find that very interesting, and also when we dowse the same house, and we would dowse it if we would find a Curry grid and find it when we work on the full moon versus working on the new moon. How much that would change. I would actually like to see that, but I haven't found one yet. Now, however, this network structure is biologically more unpleasant than the Hartmann grid, or so they say. Some of the negative effects of both grids are lack of concentration, rapid exhaustion, rapid fatigue, to the point of complete exhaustion. And so much is said about these lines or these grids. It's really a complex system, and when it comes to house healing, like I said already, all we need to look at is if there are detrimental crossings. That's why I say I focus in where they cross, where is that crossing point that causes a problem. Let's move on to the next one, sinkholes. For the section of earth energy, energetic sinkholes might be harder to grasp. Personally, I think the grids are harder to grasp, but okay. They are little holes that can be found in your home that make it possible to let energy flow from one dimension to another. Some might have difficulties to accept that we live in a multiverse. That's how I see my world. There are many, 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 many dimensions. And these sinkholes connect to other dimensions. If one of those sinkholes is found under your bed or in an area where you spend a lot of time, they can be quite draining. Sinkholes can suck the energy of your auric field and can leave you feeling exhausted and weaken your life force. You could compare them to black holes, if you like, but only, on a tiny, tiny, tiny scale, of course. It is said that they are not so common, however, I did find some of them already. And then there are also the reversal points. So reversal points are another phenomenon that might be difficult to grasp. They are points on our plane that allow energy of the deep earth itself to rise into our atmosphere. They are not harmful until they get covered up by either furniture or other objects like plant pots, for example. If that is the case, they need to find another exit point, and this can cause a detrimental effect on people and animals. So also your pets could be affected. So in your house healing report, they will be shown in pairs, the one that is covered and the one that causes the detrimental effect. But you will see that on the map key that you will get with every house healing report. So, there we go. This covers the earth energy section of a full house healing report. I hope that gave you a bit of an idea what a house healer is dowsing for when searching for detrimental aspects in your home. Please understand, all those aspects can and will be cleared, healed, rebalanced during a house healing. And I work with many different methods to achieve that. If you are in general interested in the topic of earth energy and how to find it, you can find videos on YouTube how to dowse. Even I have some YouTube videos for that. Otherwise, you could head over to Tim Water. He has videos on that topic of dowsing, especially when it comes to earth energy spirals. I would encourage everybody to find their own earth energy spiral in their home and use it for good. feel a bit like in a fantasy story, use your power for good. Anyway, I work with Reiki, I work with Source, I work with my deities, my spirit guides, my fairy guides, etc. And sometimes I also get a bit more practical about it and get my hands dirty in order to rebalance those energies. I also offer an option for house healing where we only look for detrimental earth energies if you are interested. If you're not worried about having anything in your personal energy field, or you don't even think about trapped spirits, ghosts, or anything like that in your home, and you think, oh, well, maybe just want to make sure about water veins, or earth energy spirals, or ley lines, or what have you, whatever we have discussed now, then you find also that option just for earth energy lines. And of course, I want to give that option as well, just to have a shorter report. So if you are interested in that, you can head over to talesunfold.com and find the house healing options under my services if anything else may be interesting for you. And all I have left to say is thank you so much for listening. I hope your world is kind, whatever that means to you, right? Much love and bye.